Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with the upper bracket now of the European Cup 6, the final qualifier cup of the year for the Arena World Championship, and we will be doing Rogue Mage Mirrors. Most likely it's going to be Changed My Mind on one side, Minpoike's roster, playing up against Diabolus, and Diabolus have been playing really, really good. They've been rivaling Method Black. We've honestly been very impressed by this squad throughout the last few cups.
Yeah, Diabolus have been that team on the rise, and again, in spring, we didn't really expect much of them, but then they qualified spring finals, had a great event there, and ever since they've just been looking like a completely different team, having Asgarath added into that roster, and a lot of people have had their minds changed. I'm not sure exactly what is going on with this poll, but Diabolus have been farming Change My Mind in these mirrors lately.
Wow!
Oh.
This is very interesting. So Change My Mind versus Diabolus in mirrors has actually been going in favor of Diabolus the last few weeks, but instead it's the mighty Warwicks coming in. It's the Warrior, the Warlock, and the Restoration Druid as the blind pick. This is an incredibly interesting blind pick, and bear in mind, guys, if you're a fan of Xyzon, you want Change My Mind to lose this. They are one of the rivals that they could theoretically catch up to. Diabolus are running a very interesting first pick here, then.
Not exactly what's going. So basically, if we see Diabolus walk all over, Change My Mind, and just destroy them, it'll make sense to me. But if it's a close match, this is going to make absolutely no sense whatsoever. The only reason I can see Diabolus wanting to lock in this composition is if it just is a counter to Rogue Mage Druid. I just don't think it is.
Maybe they're trying to find that answer before the summer finals. They're using this as
they were winning mirrors.
An experiment. I mean, yeah, but will they keep winning mirrors? I feel like over time, the lesser team is going to catch you, right? I mean, I feel like that's probably more likely. So perhaps Diabolus just want to utilize Walrix, try and figure out where they can use him and if he has a place in their team in the current meta. Fried Kitty is certainly taking a lot of damage early on, although Minpoike in a good position to pick him back up swiftly. We see Nixie in a polymorph, Minpoike chaining that into a Cyclone. Now it's stun on Asgarath, setting up Fried Kitty for Ring of Frost. 3 members in crowd control. Change My Mind isolating Walrix, but Walrix appears to be alright, so Minpoike will Cyclone Walrix instead, pausing his health as it denies both damage and healing, but now disrupted by a Stormbolt of Nixie. Decent damage still on Walrix, no Iron Bark for some time. Asgarath going for a Tranquility around line of sight to avoid being counterspelled to heal Walrix through that pressure. And once again, we see that Spring Blossoms build from the Restoration Druid. So Asgarath running a talent where Efflorescence, that green circle that Walrix is standing in, applies an extra heal over time effect called Spring Blossoms. Super effective at healing a stationary target like a Destruction Warlock. Super effective at healing through high crowd control, such as a Rogue Mage. And now it's actually allowing them a big opportunity to attack back towards Fried Kitty, getting the Gladiator Safeguard and Iron Bark in that exchange. But I think it's just very important to note that Spring Blossoms build from the Restoration Druid with the Destruction Warlock synergy.
Yeah, nice Nether Ward there from Walrix onto the incoming Cyclone of Minpoike, actually catching him in crowd control. But this is one of the problems with this composition. This is a story we've seen all year. An Assassination Rogue sitting on a Destruction Warlock, they win in dampening. They just do. It just happens. It's too much consistent damage. Walrix isn't going to really have much of an opportunity to run away. I feel like for Nixie, it's such a struggle to go after a Frost Mage and a Restoration Druid. The amount of control, the amount of defense. He has almost an impossible task where he has to create solo pressure by himself while Walrix is just getting farmed in the midfield. But Diabolus, if they can pull it off, it would be a big upset in my mind. I'm curious to know why they locked in this composition. If it'll work, we'll definitely have to see. Fried Kitty and Acro still all over Walrix. Nixie trying to create pressure on Fried Kitty, but there's just no damage to be found. Change My Mind, they're playing defensively really well. They're allowing Acro a lot of uptime on Walrix, and it's sort of a ticking time bomb here for Diabolus. If they can't get aggressive, if they can't win the game before 30% dampening, I just don't feel like Walrix is ever going to be able to live.
Yeah, that's the downside we've seen with the Assassination Rogue Destruction Warlock matchup, where if dampening just gets to an exceedingly high level, the Assassination Rogue just pushes the Warlock over with a couple pokes of the dagger. So they need to get kills in the early game or generate a significant mana lead and then hold it for the rest of the game and overwhelm the team with pressure. So far, they do have that mana lead established, but only roughly a minute and a half away from dampening. They still haven't gotten through any of ice blocks from Fried Kitty. Minpoike crossing midfield, but walks into a fear. This could be a chance for Diabolus to attack back. Fried Kitty still the target, but Acro gonna stop Walrix in his tracks, stunning him with a kidney shot. Fried Kitty polymorphing the Arms Warrior. Now Minpoike looking like he wants to jump in and get some crowd control as well. Stunning Asgarath, setting Fried Kitty up for a Ring of Frost, but gets war-bannered by Nixie. Walrix now calling in the Infernals to try and push back, change my mind, and intercept their attack. That is going to net them the Ice Barrier, and I'm not sure if it was the Gladiator Safeguard. I don't think it was, but the longer that Infernals are down, the more that Walrix will ramp up the damage of his next Chaos Bolt through a talent called the Grimoire of Supremacy. Every Soul Shard that he spends increases the damage of his next Chaos Bolt by a percentage, stacking until the Infernals have faded. This is why you want to be avoiding Chaos Bolt at all costs during the Infernal timing. Walrix is splitting his cooldowns though, not choosing to activate the Dark Soul on top of the Infernals, potentially to maximize his damage over a longer period of time rather than in a condensed moment. This could be a good strategy to run Minpoike out of mana. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah, Walrix has just been getting completely controlled in the midfield, to put it lightly. Full Ring of Frost on Asgarath. Walrix in so much trouble. Unending Resolve has to be traded out. He's looking for fears, but it's literally being kick into kidney shot, into cyclone, into kick, into kidney shot, into cyclone. Here's another cyclone. Walrix, I hope you like it, because it just seems like right now, changed my mind. They've got all the control of the matchup. Walrix has to try to figure something out as soon as he can. Fried Kitty gets the polymorph reflected on him. Nicely done there by Nixie, and they're going after Minpoike. Maybe they can exploit the fact that Minpoike is playing very aggressive, but the Gladiator Safeguard will shut down that kill attempt from Diabolus. That was a good job, but Minpoike, anytime he has the Gladiator Safeguard up, he can afford to throw caution to the wind, as it will likely keep him up.
Yeah, Minpoike still the target. They're kind of ignoring Nixie. Nixie may be able to solo Minpoike. I've changed my mind. Don't do something about it. Fried Kitty blinks back to protect. Polymorphing up Nixie. Walrix stunned up by Acro. Minpoike jumping across midfield to help secure crowd control on Asgarath. Ring of Frost has landed. Walrix is going to counter pressure, activating Dark Soul while his healer is in crowd control. This can be a good way of playing a Destruction Warlock, because the other team knows where your damage is coming from. It's going to be Chaos Bolt. They're going to run away from you when you try and press Chaos Bolt. What is... Whoa! Huge swap onto Minpoike. What just happened to him? Nixie getting maximum uptime. Here I am trying to explain the mechanics of the Destruction Warlock, expecting this match to go on for some time, but Diabolus are just going to outright smash Minpoike.
Changed my mind through that game in the trash. They should not have lost that game. And Minpoike playing way over aggressive. He traded out his Bark Skin. I'm pretty sure he'd already traded out his Trinket. There was no Safeguard. And like I said, if you have the Safeguard, you can kind of throw caution to the wind. With Bark Skin, you're going to be chilling too, but he just had nothing and then went for an aggressive play, and he just got punished because of it.
Yeah, it's kind of the classic saying, right? It's fool me once, force my Safeguard. Fool me twice, yikes, I just fell over. So Minpoike is going to fall in that game. Game one actually in favor of Diabolus, but this experiment didn't look that good, I've got to say, until that very end moment.
Yeah, honestly, it looked like Warwick was... I'm still not convinced about this composition pick from Diabolus. It worked out for them. They got a win onto Warwick, I guess, which is, I believe, his first win, actually, since he joined this roster.
One of them,
yeah, at least one of them. But ultimately, I think, like you guys already mentioned, Poike is way too aggressive. Going for, bash into Ring of Frost like that. When he's on half HP, then he tops himself up, but he still doesn't have Safeguard, Trinket, or his Bark Skin. So he pushes in, he gets stunned, then he gets stunned again, and then he dies. And Warwick actually didn't even get a single spell on him.
He got soloed by...
He got soloed by Asgarath and Nixie.
Yeah, that was pretty astounding damage. I mean, we've talked about these warriors. They can be kind of a difference maker against the Rogue Mage Druid, but that was certainly against the runner play. It felt like this is when we were having the discussion of the best healers in Europe right now. You've got people like Chaz and Minpoike that are both very flashy. And on the flip side, you got people like Looney who are just incredibly safe. They won't make the flashy play. And then I feel like Chaz is a little bit closer on the spectrum. Like, he does the flashy plays, but he's also maybe not as safe as Looney, but still pretty safe. Minpoike, there are a couple of times where we see him getting caught out. That's one of the things. He's kind of Dre on Druid to some extent, in that he has these really aggressive plays. He'll take over a game. He's been a legend on the Druid for years in Europe. But then equally, there are these situations where he gets caught out when he shouldn't.
I mean, yeah, putting it lightly, there's no Trinket, no Barskin, no Safeguard, and instead of just surviving and running around the pillar, he ran into the midfield and he got smoked. I mean, props to Nixie, honestly, for setting up that kill, sort of realizing the
really
situation
good.
and creating pressure, because I feel like if Vinpoike had just played a little bit safe, if they had just played into their win condition, there's no way they could have lost that game. Or barring a miracle like that attempt that we just saw, I really feel like this matchup is heavily in favor of Change My Mind.
I think this is the first time we've actually seen a Destruction Warlock beat Rogue Mage Druid in this patch.
I think it's been a long time since we've seen a Warlock
That's pretty
win.
incredible. Like, Warwick did hold it down in that game.
I think it's because that situation I was trying to describe before Vinpoike decided to just lose the game there in game 1 was that as a Destruction Warlock, your cooldowns are very noticeable. They're high impact, but they're you're going to see it coming. It's like Infernals have landed, avoid Chaos Bolts, run away, stop the Warlock, avoid all of this situation. So if Walrix tries to engage an attack, the other team is like, well, we don't care. We're going to run away from you and we're going to wait. But the way that he times his cooldown is right when the other team is pushing at him, right at the moment where they have to stay if they want to get the kill with the crowd control they've got, he'll pop his cooldowns and try and kill them before he dies.
Yeah.
And turn it into a race rather
Almost
than
like
having
a defensive cooldown, right?
Rather than having the other team just run away from you. And it's because he's timing his cooldowns like that, he's able to find more opportunities with the Destruction Warlock.
Yeah.
I mean, that said, the amount of control we saw from Change My Mind at some points of the game makes it just seem like, for Walrix, it is a difficult task. I mean, he literally got kicked into Kidney Shot, into Cyclone, got out of the Cyclone, got kicked again, then got smoke bombed on his next cast into a Kidney Shot, and he was shut down. He didn't do anything on his entire Infernal.
I'd be really curious to see what the DPS,
Yeah.
He's a distraction.
Yeah.
He's just a tank. He's just sitting in the middle of the map with his mastery, just like reducing damage on himself, and like, please, Nixie, kill Vinpoike before dampening gets too high. That's kind of what they're playing for.
I mean, it can work. I mean, if he throws in, when they do an attempt like
coil
that,
and stuff is
if you have
useful,
coil and you have Infernal Stun, like that can actually be the little bit of extra damage you need. But essentially, getting off your significant burst as a Destruction Warlock against a Rogue Mage Druid is really difficult. And I mean, Change My Mind really showcased that in that game. If they had just played a little bit safer, when Vinpoike didn't expose himself as a target, there was 0 damage on Fried Kitty. There was 0 damage on Acro. Vinpoike was the only one that could die, and he just decided to run into the midfield. I mean, I know we're hammering on that over and over, but this matchup still doesn't make a lot of sense coming in from Diabolus, in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're just kind of trying stuff, as we say. They're second place. Yeah, they're swapping over to Nixie on the Rogue, and maybe they're just kind of trying stuff. Like, they've pretty much locked in the second place seeding. They're so far ahead. No one's catching Method Black, so maybe this is kind of a case of, well, let's see how these matchups play out. Obviously, they win game 1, so there's no reason for them to deviate particularly, although Nixie is swapping over to the Rogue. I remember I was watching, like, to the point about how frustrating it is for Destruction Warlocks. I was watching Maldiva's stream a couple of weeks ago, and he was playing with Metaphor, and he was so tempted. He was playing as a Rogue Mage, and he did the mistake of going for the unending resolve aggressively, the wall, just so he can get those chaos bolts off, and then they lost the game like 30 seconds later, and Metaphor was like, you know what we said about those aggressive walls, Maldiva, you know? It's like, it's the only way you can actually get your burst off sometimes in these matchups, but at the end of the day, it's such a risk, because that is the big defensive cooldown for the Warlock.
I think you have to take that risk, though, because if you don't take the risk, there's no openings. There's just too much lockdown from the Rogue Mage Druid, and what are you supposed to do as a Destruction Warlock?
You just wait to lose, ultimately.
Exactly. It's you save your defensive cooldown to the point where you're just not going to get healed and lose anyways, or you try to create windows of opportunity. So you really can't blame the Warlocks for trying that, although it can be frustrating, I'm sure, as a healer. He was like, can you just use your defensive cooldown? No, sorry, I was trying to get a Chaos Bolt earlier. But, I mean, Destruction Warlocks are incredibly tanky right now. That's the one thing they have going for them. Outside of dampening, they are super difficult to take down. We've only seen very few compositions being able to do so. I think the Arms Warrior Retribution Paladin was one of those compositions. Rogue Mage Druid sometimes can with, Maledict pushes and really extended crowd control chains, but for the most part, Warlocks, are basically invulnerable until dampening, it feels like.
Yeah, so then they can go for those aggressive plays a little bit. It's like, reminds me when I'm playing with these two guys on their mages, and they're like, okay, we're playing for dampening, and then the next crowd control, insta-ice block on that, so...
No idea what you're talking about.
It does certainly happen in some of these games. It's nice to see, though, that Warwick was able to pull through with a victory against the Rogue Mage Druid. Diabolus able to score a point on the board with the unorthodox compositions, and Nixie will be coming in on the Assassination Rogue. One of the interesting things, and one of the things I'm super happy to see, is that we actually have blind blind on the spectator UI now, so we'll be able to track that much more easily, see what these healers are trinketing, and see if there's any good win conditions for both to set up. So make sure to look out for that in these next games. What can Acro and Nixie get done?
I'm really excited about this blind edition. There's been so many times where I feel like I've missed blinds or healers trinket it so fast and I don't know exactly when it's up. So definitely a great addition to the spectator UI. We can track that from Nixie and Acro. We'll have to see how they set that up in this match.
Diabolus appear to just be experimenting with compositions to try and figure out what is going to be best suited for them and maybe try and warm up Walrix for the summer finals on that Warlock. Walrix is a legendary player on the Warlock in particular, but it's just not really been his meta this year. Warlock's not really in fashion outside of the Mage Warlock Druid composition, which really only Cloud9 were having any success with. So that may have just been a Cloud9 thing, not necessarily a Destruction Warlock thing. Hopefully in the future, Walrix will find a composition, find an Essence build. We've seen other compositions like the Windwalker Death Knight suddenly defeating Rogue Mage Druid when they just change their essences and their talents up. So perhaps there is more experimenting to be done here, and Diabolus are doing that here in game number 2.
Yeah, Fried Kitty under a little bit of pressure right now. Trades out the Temporal Shield to bounce his hit points back up to full. Nixie on the Rogue over the Warrior is going to have a little bit more lockdown in this matchup. I'm not sure he's going to be able to make those same sort of swaps over on the Minpoike. Maybe on the smaller map he might be able to do so. If he can land a Shadow Step Kidney Shot into Minpoike, into a Bash from Azgroth, into a Mortal Coil Infernal Stun, maybe they could make a sort of an all-in attempt once again on Minpoike and really punish him. Poike so far has been playing very defensive in the matchup. You can see he's out of line of sight, doesn't want to create any windows of opportunity for Diabolus. Azgroth as well, he's positioned quite far away. You can see both Druids just playing it very cautious at this point, but the thing is, I feel like if both Druids are playing cautious and no one's really pushing in for crowd control, Change My Mind is going to slowly but surely pull ahead in the matchup.
Crowd control secured. Walrix is isolated. He's going to be calling in the Infernals right mid-attack. So this is a perfect timing for Walrix. He can use this stun to interrupt crowd control and now ramp up his damage while Change My Mind is most overextended. Beautiful timing on that Infernal. Lobbing out some Chaos Bolts on him in Poike. One of those going to connect. Nixie not going to chase after that, though, and try and capitalize on it. A bit unfortunate. Minpoike going to recover. Now instead, Diabolus switching back to Fried Kitty, keeping their pressure on towards him. Mana even between the teams. I feel like it's been some time since we've seen the matchup of the Rogue Warlock Druid against the Rogue Mage Druid, and I'm interested to find out, but my anticipation, my sixth sense is telling me if this game goes to 30% dampening, we're going to be seeing a dead Warlock.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of just how it plays out. The Assassination Rogue, their consistent damage just ends up being a lot. We can see Nixie now trading out his blind, and Poike will be sitting through that. And I love it. I love this addition to the Spectator UI. Full sap over on him in Poike. He trades out the Trinket. A little bit patient there. Wants to make sure that at least Diabolus traded out something. I mean, at this point, Nixie still has the Vendetta. There's still the Dark Soul available. Infernal's going to be rolling up for Walrix in about a minute. Maybe this is a chance they can go after Minpoike. If he's got no Trinket, if they can get the Bark Skin, this is exactly what they want to do. They're actually just going all in. Minpoike could be in big trouble. Massive Chaos Bolt, and Minpoike falls. I don't know. I feel like at that point, Minpoike, we're going to see it in the replay, but Minpoike, he sits the blind, and I feel like at that point it's good. You want to sit the blind because you're not sure if they're going to commit Vendetta or any offensive cooldowns whatsoever, and then he trinkets out of the sap, and they still didn't commit anything. I was like, okay, it's a good trade. You wait until the cooldowns are, wait, they still have all of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's 2 games in a row now where Change My Mind looked like they were doing fine playing for that. Yeah, definitely unfortunate losses in both situations. Diabolus able to take this one 2-0. Maybe they're just styling on Change My Mind at this point.
Maybe they just figured out that just play with a tank, with a Warlock, and go after the Druid. It seemed to work. Like, we know that the Rogue Mage Druid, their win condition is in deep dampening. Assassination Rogue is going to have so much uptime on a Warlock, whereas Nixie is not going to have that good uptime on Fried Kitty, and a Rogue, is going to be able to get away in dampening. So, but here in Poike, he trinkets. I feel like Fried Kitty has Temp Shield up. Why did he trinket there? He has Temp Shield up. Acro is on Cheap Shot DR. The whole team is just like fine. Nixie didn't commit his Vanish either, by the way. And here in Poike, he's actually going for an aggressive play here as well, forcing out Asgard's Trinket. But then he gets caught up in out of form. He's low. Warwick's actually gets a Chaos Bolt off. Acro is line of sighting what is going on here? What's this line of sighting that Chaos Bolt? Fried Kitty couldn't have done anything because he was counterspelled, and Minpoika is low, getting stunned out of form without Trinket because he essentially wasted it.
Yeah.
Yikes.
That was yikes. Yeah, I mean, let's get some pogs in the chat for the blind on the UI. I think we're very happy to see that. It makes the casting so much easier for us, for you guys as well with the tracking. But ultimately, I think we need some yikes in the chat for that, because it was just kind of disastrous for Change My Mind. 2 games in a row now. They dropped down to the Destruction Warlock of Warwick. Diabolus looking like they're going through to Championship Sunday once again. It's been a weird day here at the Arena World Championship so far. First, we see Zhrei Bladestorm, and Zhrei starts his way to victory. And then we see, and like obviously, unfortunately, couldn't be able to compete, so Zyzon made it through. Now in the upper bracket, Diabolus are kind of experimenting, almost toying with Change My Mind, and they're actually 2-0 up with Warwick on the Destruction Warlock. I mean, they're playing incredible. Nixie especially is setting up plays left, right, and center. He set them up on the Warrior, set them up on the Rogue. He's really in the discussion for one of the best DPS players, because, you know, when they won BlizzCon, he was playing everything. Once again here, styling on Change My Mind. Yeah,
Nixie is really one of those people that you don't give a lot of credit, but he has such a difficult job. Essentially, he is the melee expert. He has to play DK, Rogue, Windwalker, you know, Warrior. He plays everything that his team needs him to play, and even Resto Druid. Yeah, I was just about to say, even this, I actually competed against Nixie in Cataclysm and lost him in a tournament where he played Holy Paladin, and obviously he's played Resto Druid as well. Yeah. So this guy literally can play pretty much anything, and he's super good at it, actually. There's some people that, you know, they'll play something and be kind of serviceable at it, but Nixie, you give him 2 weeks, 3 weeks on that Resto Druid, he'll look like he's just been healing his whole life. You give him some time on the Rogue, he'll be up there with Acro, with Waz, you know, really doing a good job, and he's been setting up these kills for Diabolus in both of the last games, so they're up 2-0, and it's largely because of Nixie. Yeah, I remember back in like 2015, I think it was, Jamie was set to go to regionals in Europe, and they had to make a roster swap at the last second, like literally with 1.5 weeks until the regionals, and they brought in Nixie, who hadn't played Warrior the entire expansion. In 1.5 weeks, he got to the point where he was almost at Joe Fernandez level. You know, he took us to a game 3 in our best of 3 series. Absolutely incredible, this player. And I talk to Alec often, and he always says he feels so lucky and so privileged to play with Nixie, because Nixie literally, you know, last year when they stopped playing with Poike, they played with Nixie for a cup, and they actually almost won that cup. I think they came second in it. So this guy, absolutely legendary. Whatever class you put him on, he will perform. So far, he's been getting the better of Change My Mind, and they're looking to secure this series 3-0 with the Destruction Warlock into the Rogue Mage. Yeah, Change My Mind just really hasn't had the perfect start to the day. Honestly, a couple of sloppy mistakes here, and this is kind of the problem with Minpoika a lot of the time. He'll go in, he'll get so much crowd control, he's actually looking for it right now, but sometimes he will unfortunately get one leaked on his way over. So Minpoika definitely gonna have to be a little bit careful. When he has the safeguard, when he has the bark skin, he can definitely go for those plays. Other than that, I want to see him just kind of stay back, play to his win condition. You can already see a nice low cyclone. Minpoika gets bashed before by Asgaroth there. Asgaroth gating away to safety. Defensive blind from Nixie. I gotta say, Diabolus did a really good job deflecting that situation. Minpoika was definitely setting up there for a big kill opportunity. Now Warwick's casting out a Chaos Bolt. Of course, the blind was followed up by a sap here onto Acro. They're gonna force out Fried Kitty's safeguard and that ice barrier there. So some defense here on the side of Fried Kitty, but more importantly, they didn't get into a situation where Asgaroth is getting into a full bash ring of frost with Warwick's already being on 30%, and that's because Asgaroth was just faster with the bash there. So nicely done by him, but Moike is gonna get it. But once again, Asgaroth preemptive Iron Bark there onto Warwick's is gonna make sure that he survives this, no problems. Yeah, Asgaroth is definitely up there in the contention for top healers. I think the only reason we didn't really put him there was because he's only really been forced to play the Druid this year, whereas the other healers, we've seen them playing other healers across. Oh, you mean like Chaz that you voted for? Yeah, I voted for Chaz. I mean, I feel like Chaz is the best healer right now. I stand by my decision, but Asgaroth is definitely a part of that conversation. He deserves to be. Even little things there, like getting the better of the Mighty Bash war against Minpoika, you know, it mattered so much. Cost Changed My Mind 30 seconds on their setup, and now Asgaroth, he's
min-maxing, he goes for a drink. The Urstal's Vortex denied by Minpoike. He wasn't able to land it, so Asgraf's going to get full mana here. Warwick dropping a little bit low, though hopefully Asgraf, you know, he's going to have access to a lot of healing. Both the Swiftmen should be up. Minpoike is looking to punish it. Cheap Shot comes in. Cyclone, Ring of Frost, both being casted. The double cast, the triple cast. Landing crowd control onto Asgraf. Are they going to be able to punish that drink? Infernals comes in. The Dark Soul, the coils. Warwick trying to counter pressure.
Yeah, and that's the thing that Warwick just does so good right there. He spell-locks Fred Kitty, the Ring of Frost goes through, but he denies the follow-up Cyclone and the follow-up Sheep, dropping his Infernals onto Minpoike, making sure that he buys a little bit of time when that Ring of Frost is still active to deny the Cyclone, and then the double Mortal Coil on Fred Kitty and on Minpoike. You gotta shut both of them down at the same time. Now with the pressure from the Infernals, they're actually gonna go after Acrolls, and they're doing a good job here, but Asgraf was caught up in Cyclones right there, so Warwick's a little bit of trouble, gonna use his Gladiator's Medallion to get out of one of those stuns. Now he's looking to get that pressure rolling. That was his Dark Soul as well, and unfortunately for him, he gets counterspelled into a Cyclone. And the reason why Minpoike does the Cyclone at the back of that counterspell was because he was counterspelled on Chaos Bolt, which means he can't use any of his abilities, and one of his abilities is of course that Nether Ward, that Spell Reflect. So Minpoike doing a good job as well, capitalizing on that little window there.
I am a little scared for Minpoike though. He trinketed out of blind. Acro's dropping low. If Minpoike overextends here, I could definitely see Nixie going for a kill, but instead they're going to kidney him up, get counter pressure. This was the Vendetta push. They actually used it over onto Acro. I might have, if I was them, if I was Diabolus after the last couple of games, I think I would have definitely saved that Vendetta, go for an all-in on Minpoike, maybe land the kill that way. Instead they do go after Acro though, unable to find it. Beautiful plays there by Minpoike. He reads Nixie. Nixie did want to go for that swap. Preemptive fair form on the kidney shot. Doesn't even have to trade out the bark skin, line of sight in Warwick, and he should be fine. So maybe he's just a little bit more prepared this game. You know, they've lost 2 games, essentially throwaways from Change My Mind. They're still playing the Rogue Mage Druid though. You do get the feeling that if they just play it a little bit more safe, they should be able to take this one.
Yeah, absolutely. But so far, I gotta say, Diabolus, they have been playing it very, very well. And there is an opening onto Minpoike. He doesn't have his trinket, so definitely could get punished later. But like you mentioned, the map also definitely helps Change My Mind to play it out defensively here. Nixie taking quite a bit of damage here. Fred Kitty going for the Polymorph. Smoke Bomb gets dropped by Acro. There's the Flurry combo. Minpoike looking for the DR bash there. Nicely done by him. And then he's going to go for the low Cyclone. Actually, Cyclone's up Warwick to prevent him from shutting down that setup with those Mortal Coils. Unfortunately for him, Fred Kitty couldn't connect the Ring of Frost, and now Minpoike caught up in a bash, followed up by a Cyclone. Fred Kitty was in a stun, so he could not shut that down with his counterspell. You know, Fred Kitty is on the back foot, but he does have his Temporal Shield. He's going to bounce him up to a reasonable amount of HP. I don't believe he has his safeguard just yet. Should have procced there if it was off cooldown. So nice pressure here from Diabolus as they keep on swinging.
Yeah, they're doing really good in this matchup, and I also want to note the nice little min-max from Nixie. His safeguard proc, but he actually used the Cloak of Shadows at the same time, which is a smart play, I think, because otherwise Fried Kitty's just going to Kleptomania all of the hots and the safeguard. Presumably he actually did it into the Cloak of Shadows, potentially. Very nice play from Nixie to protect his absorb, keep himself in the fight. Mana pretty even between the 2 teams. Actually, this matchup doesn't seem too bad for Diabolus, even without any mistakes really on the side of Change My Mind. Mana isn't looking great. Fried Kitty's not taking a really good exchange here. Seems like Warwick actually is doing better right now. Fried so low as Minpoike sits through the blind into the sap. They might even have an opportunity for the kill. We see triple saps coming in. Asgraf's pushing forward. If they have stuns off that and Cyclones, this could actually be game 3 in favor of Diabolus.
Minpoike actually had to end up trinketing there as well, and Fried Kitty traded out his Ice Block, so a bit of an exposed target here on Change My Mind, but that mage is going to be very difficult to kill. I actually don't mind that Poike sat through that crowd control there, but if they traded out the Ice Block a little bit sooner, I feel like he could have actually gotten away without using his trinket. Now they traded out an Ice Block and his trinket, which means that he is of course an exposed target. Warwick actually was using his Unending Resolve right there, so he was trying to get really aggressive with that cooldown, and when you activate the Unending Resolve this late into the game, it's definitely going to be an opening for Change My Mind onto Warwick. Acro now looking to punish with that kidney shot. Fried Kitty connecting with the Comet Storm, Frost Bolts, Orbs, a lot of damage here over onto Warwick. Asgraf has his Innervate up, and he has his Iron Bark. He could be able to deflect it, but with Poike getting spell reflected right there by Warwick on his Cyclone, Asgraf is going to be able to hold on onto that Iron Buck. Nicely done. Asgraf now, I think, is also looking for a drink here.
Yeah, Asgraf has been doing such a good job in this game. He's sitting in the back line. He knows how to keep Warwick alive, though he does need to be very scared right now. We don't have much mana left. Dampening's starting to stack up, and as you say, the Unending Resolve was used a little bit aggressively by Warwick, trying to secure the kill. Don't really blame him for it. I agree with Enrique. You've got to kind of find those opportunities as the Warlock. The deeper the game goes, the harder it will be for them. But Mimpoike hasn't been able to get drinks so far. He's trying to get aggressive in the situation. Good Mortal Coil combo from Warwick, able to kind of subvert the pressure from Change My Mind, maybe try turn something for himself, but Fried Kitty is playing so defensively. He recognizes that his healer's low on mana and he has to be avoiding damage as well.
Ooh, smoke bomb attempt here over onto Warwick's. Akrol's going to be dropping that one. Mimpoike caught up in a silence right there. Fried Kitty now going for the Ring of Frost since the counterspell was used by Warwick's there, and Akrol's as well doing a good job shutting down the double Mortal Coil, but Warwick's is going to be looking for it. He's going for Fierce. Mimpoike connects the Cyclone here. Defensive blind by Nixie onto Akrol's once again. And here's a big difference between the two rogues as well. Nixie actually playing that Night Elf with the Trinket, whereas Akrol's is playing the Human with the Relentless. Kind of an interesting stylistic difference there between the two, and I think Nixie can actually afford to play with this choice because Warwick's is on his team. Warwick's, of course, the preferred target for the Rogue Mage Druid, so I like that Nixie is min-maxing knowing that.
Yeah, I think Nixie's being very smart. One definite weakness of this Relentless Human build that a lot of the rogues are running is that defensive blind is just such a potent tool. Whenever the rogue is getting aggressive, you can just blind him, especially if a sap's available off of that. It's really good. Mimpoike actually sat down for a good drink there. He was completely out of mana. That's a game changer for sure. I was starting to think that Diabolus was actually going to take this game 3, but Mimpoike, intelligent drink, one of the things he is very good at on the Druid, finding those opportunities. Full counterspell now into Warwick. Does seem like the Rogue Mage Druid is starting to take the lead here as Asgraf is struggling. Ironbark, last line of defense. Vendetta coming up for Acrolaws in 20 seconds. Could be a big opening, though Warwick is just kind of dying through it. 30% dampening. The Affliction, or the Destruction Warlock, sorry, struggling so much in this situation.
Akrol's actually cloaked the Mortal Coil of Warwick's right there, denying the heal, denying the crowd control. Chaos Bolt getting lobbed out at Mimpoike, but Nixie, unfortunately, is in a fear now. Warwick's using his Unending Resolve as soon as he came off cooldown while Asgard is in that Cyclone, but he's in big trouble here. Smoke Bomb gets dropped here, I believe by Nixie, so it's a defensive Smoke Bomb right there. Asgard though in a full Ring of Frost, and surely that's the game.
Yep, that will be game in favor of Change My Mind. Well executed, 31% dampening. The Assassination Rogue Frost Mage, just too much for the Destruction Warlock to handle. And we are heading into game 4 here, Super Tears.
Well, that's kind of what we predicted. 30% dampening, Dead Destruction Warlock to the Assassination Rogue. So the main objective for the Rogue Mage Druid should at all times be survive until 30% dampening, then try and win the game with crowd control and some cooldowns. But prior to that moment, you're really just risking your own defeat, and we saw it cost them game 1 and game 2. So now if I'm Diabolus, having seen that play out, I think that it would be wise for them to go back to their Rogue Mage Druid in the mirror that they've already been just dominating.
Yeah,
anyway.
pretty good in. I mean, this has been a really interesting series, like the experimentation from Diabolus. Like, everyone's been struggling to find answers. It's nice to see Warwick come out and actually shine, because this guy is really good at the Warlock, and here he was able to prove it in this series, but maybe it is time for a change.
I feel like they do need to change. Diabolus, their wins, they were good, but I feel like they were off the back of big mistakes coming in from Mimpoike and Change My Mind in general. This is how the matchup is really supposed to play out. You don't take risks as the Rogue Mage Druid. I mean, we've seen Cloud9 pull out strategies where they essentially never push in until late in dampening. They just kind of win in the late game. If they don't take unnecessary risks, it's really going to be up to Diabolus to make sure they are playing hyper-aggressive in the matchup, trying to create an opportunity to win, because if they can't, this is what happens. The Restoration Druid eventually goes out of mana. Walrix, a lot of his defense is built into, absorbs and self-healing that he has available, being a Destruction Warlock, and that just gets negated by 30% dampening by so much. It's really overwhelming pressure coming in from Change My Mind. So for Change My Mind, their strategy, live till dampening and then win the game. But the other team, Diabolus, if they want to lock in a Destruction Warlock, they have to try to play aggressive, which isn't an easy task, and that's why I don't think this is really a favored matchup.
Yeah, they really have to be the playmakers. Of course, if they do kind of stick with this strategy of playing out the Warlock, it's something we might see. Maybe it's just they want to try win a series with the Destruction Warlock. It would be a big kind of feat of strength if they were able to pull through of it. They would have 2 small maps coming up, and Nixie, being the big playmaker that we've seen him be in this series, on the smaller map, he would be able to set up opportunities easier.
Yeah, I think a smaller map is definitely going to favor them. And like you mentioned, Diabolus kind of farming achievements right now on broadcast. So it's nice to see that they're, grinding it out here as well. But I do think a smaller map is a lot easier to set up kills on. It's a lot easier, of course, to deny the drinks. I mean, Poika as well, which was a large factor in why Change My Mind were able to secure the previous game. So I expect actually to see something like the Warrior Lock, something like the Rogue Lock on a smaller map. And then if they lose that,
then they go for the mirror.
They go for the mirror.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way of looking at it. Warwick, we're giving him some screen time. Of course, we've got, this is the last qualifier cup, right? So next week it's going to start with the Mythic Dungeon Invitational on this channel. So if you guys are a fan of that, you should definitely check it out. But for the Arena World Championship, after this, the teams are going to have a little bit of a pause, book their flights, etc. for the summer finals, which will be happening in about 6-7 weeks, I believe, from now in September. So they have a bit of time between now and then. And maybe we will see the meta shift up a little bit. Maybe people find answers for the Rogue Mage, or there's some hot fixes that impact class balance. It is useful to have Warwick kind of getting some real games in here, because he hasn't really had the opportunity since he joined the team in summer.
Yeah, he really hasn't had much of a showcase so far, but in years past, I mean, we've known him as one of the best Warlocks in Europe, and having a good Warlock on your team certainly helps. The problem is he really just hasn't been implemented that well on this roster yet, but like you said, if there are changes up and coming, this could be the person in all of Europe that you really would want on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, Wildcard Gaming had him all of last year. Sometimes it paid off, sometimes it didn't, right? It really depends on where the Warlock is.
And think about that. Think about what happens if Warlocks are all of a sudden the best. Having Walrix on your team really will give this team a massive edge. We know Swapsy plays Warlock, but, I mean, just to be honest, it hasn't really been at that super top-tier level that we've seen so far. And a lot of the other teams, they don't even have Warlocks available. Maro, he hasn't really been playing Warlock that often, so that would be the slight edge that they need. They just need to find a way to implement him, or if we need to see some changes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing as well. Like, with Warwick, you've got Nixie, who will literally play anything. We've seen him on Elemental Shaman. We've seen him on pretty much every single melee, every single healer. Combining that with Asgraf, Druid normally is the healer that you see combined with the Warlock. I mean, there's no reason why this team couldn't take a cup, couldn't challenge Cloud9 potentially, on with Chanimal obviously being known as a phenomenal Warlock for them. We'll have to see if that is the way it goes. Blade's Edge is the map choice, and this is a really interesting one. We talk normally that people don't like picking Blade's Edge, but over the last couple of cups, it's actually been increasingly popular.
Specifically for Warrior Mage Druid into Rogue Mage Druid, which is what I'm waiting to see if Diabolus are going to take the strategy that Blizzo is running, because they
actually ran this on Wednesday. You remember during Open Bracket, they ran Warrior Mage a little bit.
Into the Rogue Mage? I think that was more into Zyzon's team. It wasn't into the Rogue Mage matchup, but I know Wildcard
it was
Gaming,
into Zyzon,
this is a pocket map pick for Wildcard Gaming. Usually Blade's Edge Arena isn't selected almost ever, but Blizzo's team managed to make it work with the Warrior Mage Druid matchup into Rogue Mage Druid, limiting the space that the Mage can avoid the Warrior, which means the Warrior's just going to be outpacing. They're still running the Warrior, but it's not the Mage. I'm almost wondering if maybe Alec isn't here, maybe?
Potentially. I mean, it could well be that. It could also just be them experimenting. They are 2-1 up in the series. You don't like it? They're still winning. Okay, the Super Tease is speechless. I think we've seen that before.
They're winning, but they're not convincing wins for any
fair.
of us. I don't know. They're definitely winning. They're up 2-1 right now, but the wins that they got didn't feel like convincing wins to me.
I think the win on Hook Point was fairly convincing. I mean, it sure is at the back of a pretty significant mistake of the RMD, but at the same time, I feel like at least they set something up that was, they got a stun on the healer and they got a big Chaos Bolt out. The first game, it didn't look convincing at all. Nixie just soloed the Poika, which is something that's never going to happen, but at least in the second game, they had a setup where they actually got damage off, so it's more convincing at least. And on a small map, I think it's nice.
It was a good play from Diabolus, but at the same time, Change My Mind has no business being in there at that point in the game. I feel like if you just sit back and wait, you just win.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could set up something like that later. I mean, it's interesting, right? I think we're all not convinced that the Rogue Mage Druid should be losing these matchups, but equally, Diabolus, they've been having a really good season. Maybe they're just going for some style points. Maybe they're giving Warwick some game time. It's something you see in the kind of traditional sports as well. Sometimes you bring someone off the bench, just give them some minutes on the field. In this situation, I feel like it makes sense, because if Rogue Mage Druid isn't something Diabolus can rely on, we know these guys don't practice so much on the live situation. People are literally dodging them in war games. This might be one of their best chances to actually get some serious games against some of the top competition. Currently, they're actually 2-1 up against Change My Mind. And they could well take this series here on Blade's Edge Arena. Is their map choice? It's Nixie on the Warrior.
If they end up winning with Walrus on the Warlock, I think overall that's just going to be super impressive for Diabolus. I mean, we really haven't seen Walrus implemented that much, and the fact that a Warlock is coming in and beating Rogue Mage Druid, especially a really good Rogue Mage Druid like Change My Mind, I feel like that really would be a statement. Blade's Edge Arena could be the map to do so. We've seen Blizzo on this map have massive uptime on Frost Mages, and for Nixie it could be a similar story, and that might be what they need to win this series.
I am very curious to see if Walrus can pull it off. It would be an achievement unlocked if Diabolus can manage to win with the Warrior Warlock Druid against the Rogue Mage Druid. Change My Mind looking likely to go down to lower bracket. Even if they manage to pull this off, Diabolus can then go back to their mirror, assuming that Alec is here and they're not running this because they absolutely have to. We do see Asgarath the target of choice here for Change My Mind. They're getting very aggressive here in game number 4. Barskin activated, however, may not be enough. Gladiator Safeguard, I don't believe that Asgarath is wearing it. Dips incredibly low, managing to barely survive as Acro continues the chase. Now cycloning Asgarath at low health, counterattack by Walrix. Fried Kitty going to be utilizing the pillars underneath the bridge to block those Chaos Bolts, but Asgarath continues to be the target.
Yeah, I can't believe Asgarath actually made it out alive there without using his trinket. That was really, really crazy stuff, but nicely done here by Diabolus, managing to hold on to that Gladiator medallion. We can see Acro still has his blind. Warwick's dropping a little bit low. I think Acro's going to go for a smoke bomb. Preemptive Iron Bark by Asgarath. Now you can see Acro, the way he's moving forward, he wants to go for a blind play, but since they got a Cyclone here onto Warwick's, they might actually go for the bash into full Ring of Frost here. Yeah, I think that might actually be what they're going to do here. I think Poike is moving a little bit forward aggressively. They get the Spelllock out of the way, so now they can set up for a full bash Ring of Frost with the next kidney shot, and that's going to be a little bit trouble for Warwick's.
Yeah, I think for Warwick's, he's kind of going for this really nice positioning, right, where wherever someone stands, if they're going to be attacking him, they're not near a pillar. He's just kind of got the center of the map. This is what we've seen all of the Warrior teams going for, though. To be honest, Change My Mind's done an excellent job so far, shutting down Nixie. This is a big swap over onto Minpoike, though. The stun overlaps slightly with the Mortal Coil. Maybe not perfect execution from Diabolus, but without the damage, they still force the Bark Skin, and that is an opening, potentially. You know, they do have the win condition. Even through Trinket, we've seen them kill Minpoike. Nixie on the Warrior can be so dangerous.
No, really, he's been able to put out a lot of pressure in the match so far, and Nixie has been such an impressive player, going from the Rogue to the Warrior, just overall really well-rounded. We'll have to see what he can get done. On this map, I really like the Warlock. Walrix in this position is going to be able to get off damage and fears on multiple targets. There's not too many places for Minpoike, Fried Kitty, and Acro to line of sight, unless they decide to push all the way on one side of the map. But even then, Walrix, with just slightly moving his position, should be able to get in line of fire. And that's why I like this map so much from Diabolus. Walrix now into a kidney shot, still getting controlled. Decent burst damage coming in from Change My Mind. If we look at mana right now, Diabolus, they do have a lead, a slight lead. They're actually relatively even. I'll have to see if at any point these healers can sneak away for a drink.
Blade's Edge Arena going to be a bit of a cheeky map overall with the Z-axis, the upstairs and the downstairs of the bridge. If one healer sneaks away and tries to drink on the bottom while their team is fighting up top, it can be a little bit mismanaged there when you're trying to reconnect with your team. Asgarath is currently blinded, and he is trying to sit through it. Acro is a bit reluctant to start engaging an attack, being so low on health, but now finally stunning up Walrix, but the crowd control is faded. Asgarath more than comfortably going to stabilize that situation with Iron Bark. With Iron Bark up now, Diabolus, I'm curious to see who they're going to be targeting. Walrix has secured a fear on him in Poike, and Fried Kitty is the target. Activating Temporal Shield, but on very low health. So low, in fact, the Gladiator Safeguard is going to be procced regardless, so 2 defensives out of the way from Fried Kitty's bank. Asgarath looks like he's in cat form, drinking on the opposite side of the map, likely. Acro being counter-pressured, he's not going to be able to pursue after. I'm curious to see how much mana Asgarath ultimately did find. He's going to be totally reset on that resource. And Poike, instead of going for a drink, is engaging crowd control. Initiating bash into Ring of Frost. Good pressure on Walrix. He tries to counter-engage with the double Mortal Coil, healing himself and crowd controlling the 2 damage dealers, fearing Acro out of the Mortal Coil. War Banner placed down by Nixie, which reduces incoming crowd control, has stalled the crowd control of Change My Mind long enough for Asgrath to get a Cyclone of his own now on him in Poike. Fried Kitty already down to half health. His Gladiator Safeguard procced earlier on. Temporal Shield potentially sharpened, bladed. Not doing too much healing there. Still sub 50% health, but as Poike comes out of crowd control, it looks like it's more than easily going to recover. Walrix is trying to counter-engage with the Infernals on very low health. A very difficult decision to make as the Destruction Warlock as to when to use those Infernals, and Change My Mind, they're going to respect that cooldown, immediately retreating back downstairs.
Yeah, beautiful stuff here. And triple Shadow Fury into the Chaos Bolt here from Warwick. Going to deal a lot of damage here to Acro. He still has all of his defense. Fried Kitty as well getting chopped by Nixie here. And I actually think Change My Mind are setting up for a kidney shot over onto Nixie just because he's the only one that they can really hit. Acro decides against it. He's going to go back over onto Warwick. Warwick looking for more Chaos Bolts, but unfortunately he is being shut down. And Nixie now caught up in a full route into Cyclone combo there on the bottom half of the bridge. He's not going to have too much uptime, but now you see using his Escape Artist, and Fried Kitty actually with a pretty bad blink there, blinking into the pillar is going to allow Nixie all the uptime that he needs. Nixie is going to be on target for a while here. Sharpen Blade on the Temporal Shield as well. Warwick, he's in a pretty decent spot here in the middle, just trying to get Chaos Bolts out here. The kick of Acrolls though, he's still holding on to it for such a long period of time. Vendetta gets traded out. Of course, Iron Bark in response to that. So right now, both teams kind of in a stalemate. Poike has a little bit of catch-up to do as he goes out and gets Chaos Bolted to the face. Acro now as well, getting feared up. And another Chaos Bolt, double Mortal Coil. Warwick's actually doing a decent job here, getting some of his lockdown out, getting some of his damage out. But Asgrath caught up in a full sap here. And that was not at the back of a blind, so nicely done here by Acro. But Poike behind the pillar now taking huge damage, Adrian.
I actually think it might have been the blind sap setup, but it didn't feel like it because Warwick just diffused the entire situation so perfectly. It was Mortal Coil into Fears, into Shadow Fury. It was such a good job from Warwick, really showing off why he is one of the best Destruction Warlocks in the world. Quite frankly, Warlock on any specialization. I mean, Change My Mind are being forced downstairs. Poike's mana's not doing good. Warwick is, I mean, he's just sitting fine. That was a full blind. They didn't have to use any defensive cooldowns. Asgrath's been able to drink, and this map choice is actually looking really good for the Destruction Warlock. The real telling factor is going to be as dampening starts to build up, 30, 35%, like we saw in the last game, will Change My Mind just kind of win anyways, because we've seen that against the Destruction Warlocks. Their mastery gets less powerful. A lot of that damage reduction counts as self-healing, so with dampening, it gets reduced. Warwick could be an exposed weakness as dampening starts to pull, but at the same time, Nixie in battle stance was just soloing Poike, forces out the Buckskin, forces out the Safeguard in a 1v1. Incredible stuff from Nixie.
I'm just really curious to see if Diabolus can use this composition against a team like Method Black and actually find success. We'll have to see. Change My Mind, they're in a lot of trouble right now with Poike having no mana whatsoever. If they can continue to deny the drinks, this is looking really good. They're at 16% dampening, but they're running out of time. If Change My Mind can hold on another 15% dampening, it's looking good. They make a swap over onto Asgrath. Is he going to be able to stay alive? We'll have to see. Diabolus on match point right now. If they can win this game, they'll be sending Change My Mind down into the lower bracket. Definitely have to see Poike sneaks away. He's in stealth right now. Can he recover his mana? That healer swap may have bought Change My Mind enough time, and it did when Poike recovers so much of his mana. He's at 80% now. What a massive swing.
Let's see if they can do it again here in the near future, although we're getting pretty close to that 30% mark for dampening, at which point Walrix is likely to fall over like a wet noodle. Change My Mind just need to hold it together a bit longer, and they've got more than enough mana, more than enough cooldowns to do so. Diabolus need an absolute miracle at this point. They need Poike to choke again, honestly, to be able to pull this off and get this win on the board. I think they need to be going back to their Rogue Mage Druid after this game, which I think is going to be a defeat. Right now, a couple Chaos Bolts lobbed out towards Acro. He's going to feint, reduce the damage of them. Although now walking into a bash, furthering the crowd control and potentially a pressure point. Not enough damage. Asgrath gets stunned up by Change My Mind. Getting cheeky here, 24% dampening, trying to go after the healer. Having seen that, I believe Asgrath is not running the Gladiator Safeguard, so if they do dip him low, he's not going to have that Absorb Shield to save himself. Spell lock on Fried Kitty to protect Asgrath. Asgrath repositioning back upstairs. Nixie trying to keep Acro away. Minpoike gets feared. This might be an opportunity for Diabolus. Minpoike overextending and getting caught in crowd control. Blade's Edge map there paying off for Diabolus to create some pressure, but ultimately not finding any cooldowns, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunate stuff there, but Asgrath was also denied there, caught up in a polymorph, and now we can see Acro had straight out his Cloak of Shadows, pre-fainted the Stormbolt though, and Nixie's the one on the back foot here. Common Storm comes in, smoke bomb attempt, but the Gladiator safeguard is going to deflect. Asgrath actually Ironbarked him, so this is still a pretty nice victory for Change My Mind. You might not think that the smoke bomb is a good trade against Ironbark, but when you hold on to cooldowns like Vendetta, you got Icy Vents rotating back up in 20 seconds, you can actually outright kill somebody 100-0. So definitely going to be something that they could look to capitalize on. Actually going to pull the trigger with that Vendetta onto Warwicks immediately, get him to 40%. Low Cyclone. Minpoike is looking for Asgarath, trying to find some bashes, but he's not going to be able to find it. Instead, he's the one getting bashed. Warwicks trying to drop his Infernal now, doing a lot of damage here. Minpoike in big trouble here, Adrian.
Yeah, I'm really scared for you right now, Minpoike. Safeguard procs, he's running the Safeguard and the Battlemaster. Fried Kitty uses Ice Block to save and deny Nixie his kill. But he might still land it. The she was the he might just die. The Infernal's coming. Minpoike's on the run. He's in so much trouble. No one's hitting him right now. He's managed to line of sight. He's drinking at 20% health. Absolutely incredible. 35% dampening here. Warwick is almost falling over. They have one more opportunity. If Nixie can get another stun onto Minpoike, maybe they can find something, but Warwick is not long for this world.
Acro could be in trouble as well. He's got the Cloak of Shadows now up. Safeguard does proc. There's a chance here. Defensive blind onto Nixie to keep himself alive. Change My Mind. They managed to hold on. We're at 37% dampening, and this is not looking good for Walrix. They can figure something out. I mean, at this point, there's not that many openings. Acro has vanished, Cloak of Shadows, Minpoike's got his Bark Skin and Ironbark. Who does Diabolus go after?
They're going after Fried Kitty, bursting him very low, getting his Gladiator Safeguard, Ironbark from Minpoike. Diabolus need to get a kill very soon, otherwise Walrix is just going to be overwhelmed by the Assassination Rogue. Walrix deciding to jump off the bridge and avoid the Frozen Orb for now, and then coming back up once that cooldown is faded. Stun on Acro, big push by Nixie. Asgrath moving in to get the follow-up. Acro gets absolutely destroyed in midfield, and Diabolus have done it. They've defeated the Rogue Mage without a Rogue Mage themselves.
The Warwicks, what are you doing, man? You shouldn't be able to do that. Blade's Edge Arena, he pulls through with the victory. I mean, last week we were impressed by Warrior Mage, even challenging Rogue Mage. Now it's Warrior Warlock Warwick. I think that was such a legendary play at the end there. I think it was super smart to jump off, kind of bait them in, because Fried Kitty and Minpoike were getting really comfortable at the pillar, just spamming Frostbots. They knew they were going to win the game eventually. He jumps off, kind of catches them off guard, and I mean, that was just incredible. Really good stuff. Diabolus actually win the series 3-1 with Warwick playing in all 4 games.
Yeah, that was beautiful stuff. Not something we would expect, but like you mentioned, Warwick's kind of baited the Acro down here, and I think a big reason was, of course, as well, the fact that, hey, I have my Cloak of Shadows. I can be aggressive. I am hitting a Warlock, and we've hit, 37% dampening, so he's not going to be able to do too much self-healing. So I don't know. I think a slight mistake again at the end of Change My Mind, but they were just, they were really happy with just this position in general. You have Nixie hitting the Frost Mage, which is, a pretty ideal situation, honestly, for Change My Mind. But then Warwick sees the Frozen Orb, he jumps down. Acro, he's debating, should I go after him? Should I not? What am I going to do? But Warwick's
just like strafing back and forth.
Warwick's at least positions in a way where he can still get damage out, and a lot of it is at the back of that counter spell. A lot of it is, of course, at the back of that big, beefy Chaos Bolt there at the end as well. So Fried Kitty could have easily interrupted him there if he wasn't CS'd. So nicely done by Warwick to find that opportunity with the positioning and with that spell lock.